Does Scripture ever say Peter went to Rome? No. The New Testament never explicitly states that Peter traveled to Rome. The only verse some point to is 1 Peter 5, verse 13, which states, "She who is in Babylon greets you." But Babylon is symbolic in Revelation 14, verse 8, 17, verse 5, 18, verse 10, and in Jewish writings. It does not prove Peter is in Rome, because Babylon can be symbolic for corrupt systems, not a literal city. Scripture does not say Babylon or Rome in this verse, so no verse describes Peter in Rome. Does Scripture ever say Peter was the bishop of Rome? No. Not a single verse says Peter was bishop of Rome. Peter pastored a church in Rome. Peter founded the church in Rome. But the Bible does tell us who founded the church in Rome. In Romans 1 verses 8 to 10, Paul says he has never been to Rome. So the church in Rome existed before Paul visited, but Scripture never describes Peter founding it either. Does Scripture ever call Peter Pope? No. The term Pope does not exist anywhere in Scripture. The New Testament gives titles such as Apostle, Apostolos, Elder, Presbyteros, or Overseer, Bishop, Episkopos. Peter calls himself only one thing. 1 Peter 5 verse 1 says, "Your fellow elder." Peter does not call himself Bishop, Chief Bishop, ruler of other apostles, Pope, or Father. He says he is just a fellow elder, not the head of the church. Did Jesus ever crown Peter as universal leader? No. Matthew 16 verse 18 does not say, "Peter is the bishop of Rome." Peter's authority passes to successors. Peter is the supreme head of the church, or Peter receives jurisdiction over all other apostles. Instead, Jesus says, "On this rock I will build my church." Matthew 16 verse 18. But Scripture shows that Christ is the cornerstone in 1 Corinthians 3 verse 11 and Ephesians 2 verse 20. The revelation Peter gave is the rock, Matthew 16 verse 16, and the other apostles had the same authority in Matthew 18 verse 18. There is no coronation, no enthronement, and no office of pope. Did Peter act as leader over the other apostles in Acts? No more in Acts 15, the council in Jerusalem. Peter speaks, but James gives the final judgment, Acts 15 verse 19. James presides over the church in Acts 15 verse 13, 21, and 18. Peter does not issue decrees. The letter from the council says the apostles and elders, not Peter. That is not papal behavior. Acts 8. Peter is sent by the apostles, showing he was not above them. Acts 11. Peter is questioned by other believers and must explain his actions. No one treats him as supreme authority. If Peter was Pope of Rome, why does Paul never mention it? Paul writes a long letter to the Romans, 16 chapters. Paul greets 26 people by name in Romans 16. But notice, Peter is never greeted. Paul never says, "Say hi to your bishop, Peter." Paul never says Peter sends greetings. Paul never acknowledges Peter's authority in Rome. If Peter were Pope, it would be impossible for Paul to ignore him. Using only Scripture, not Catholic tradition, not early fathers, not archaeology, the answer is crystal clear. The Bible never says Peter went to Rome. The Bible never says Peter was bishop of Rome. The Bible never says Peter was Pope. The Bible never shows Peter ruling the church. The Bible never shows succession from Peter. According to the Bible, Peter was an apostle, a fellow elder, and a servant of Christ in 2 Peter 1 verse 1, but never the Pope.